This is the real job of a teacher, is to help students find their voices, help them find the things that light their fire, that help their passion grow, have them looking at things from a different lens. My real job has to do with helping kids learn what it is to be a human and learn what it is to have an interest in living.
Welcome to part 2 with Lisa Livingston Brown. In this half of the interview, we actually talk about teaching. So buckle up. It's time to learn what teaching is like from the perspective of a teacher. In 2026, we explore the challenges and tribulations and victories. Also, how to become the perfect parent for your teacher. Here are some refreshers on terms you may hear in the episode. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's the triangle. First, you need physiological needs to be met. Air, water, food, shelter. Then, safety needs. Security, predictability. Then, love and belonging. Social connection and acceptance. Then we're up to esteem. But you can't meet esteem if you don't have these other parts. Esteem is recognition, competence, and respect. And at the very top, realizing your full potential, self-actualization. So if we don't have school lunches, we can't have anything else. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Montessori, that's a type of teaching. And this is more child-led or experience-led. If you're interested in something, you learn more about it. And then you'll be interested in something else and you'll learn more about it. And it trusts in the process of learning becoming a skill and a habit and something you enjoy. And finally, IEP. If you don't have kids in school now, you might not know. Individualized education plan. It means you were evaluated and you have some form of learning complication. It could be autism, deafness, blindness. There are many IEPs. An IEP just means we might need to teach differently or have an accommodation, which is amazing because we didn't used to have these. And you just had to figure it out or sit in the corner, right? I've linked these things in the show notes if you're a very good student. Okay, now let's get into it. We're at the main event, which the topic is teaching.
Okay.
But then for some reason, I started remembering watching MasterChef all the time and them doing the mystery box. So I tried to put these two things together and we'll see if they work. Did you ever watch MasterChef?
I did not.
Well, perfect, because then you won't know that this is wrong. Okay, so round 1 is we're picking ingredients.
Okay.
And you either keep it to use, you change it in some way, or you throw it in the garbage. But this is going to be about teaching. So the first ingredient is standardized testing.
Trash it.
Keep it, change it, get rid of it.
Trash it.
Ooh, why?
Standardized teaching is possibly the worst thing you can do to an elementary kid.
I had a suspicion, but why?
One, for the anxiety, because we have a lot of anxious children now. That did not really used to be a thing, but now it is. Research in Finland, which is kind of the gold standard of teaching, has shown that children below the age of 10 really aren't functioning well on these tests because we're asking them to hold so much in working memory and they can't do it. It's very difficult for a child to read a passage, comprehend a passage, be able to draw inferences from a passage, and then be able to draw conclusions from a passage, and then compare two passages and do the same thing all over, and then answer questions about it. And that's what we're asking them to do on standardized tests. And this is an executive function that exists in older children and adults, but not so much in children under the age of 11 or 10. Standardized testing for kids in the K-5 is not appropriate. It's not, we're to go back to Maslow, hierarchy of needs. These kids need to gain confidence in learning. They need to enjoy learning. They need to explore learning. They do not need to have themselves tested on things that are, to them abstract. They need more concrete learning at this point. And we've got kids in 5th grade right now that can't multiply in their heads and can't divide in their heads. And they're being told that they're failures for this. But it's just they don't have enough working memory to hold all of it in their head and then answer a word problem that they're trying to understand what they're even being asked to do. It's really just making money for the test-taking companies, and it's really not doing anything but churning up a bunch of data that says our kids aren't learning. Well, yeah, you're right. They're not learning because this is not the way these kids learn.
Yeah, this is not the way to measure that they're learning.
Yeah, this is not, well, you know, if you want to measure learning, you need to come into the classroom and see, you know, what they did physically, what they did for concrete knowledge. Because this is really where they're all at, is concrete learning. And this is where, you know, abstraction comes a lot later. And I noticed that you have technology on here too, and I would say change it. I'm jumping ahead a little bit on you, but I say change it because this feeds right into the loss of working memory. If you have a Chromebook in every kid's hand, that's fabulous, good for you. But the problem is that what you're really doing is you're creating a whole group of kids who are technologically addicted. And we don't need that. That's not the way you learn. Typing is not the way you learn. Writing it out, physical, concrete, direct input into the brain. And there is research that shows this. And we could have a whole conversation about just the research on this topic. The problem is again, we go back to what's best for kids and what's best for the adults teaching the kids. What's best for the adults teaching the kids is to hand them a piece of technology and say, here, this will help you improve on this so you can make a better test score. Then we have technology that we're adopting that's not, I would say that's not 100% solid. The thing could be hacked and their personal information and data can be leaked. That's totally not appropriate for kids. You know, I agree that technology in small doses is probably good, but we cannot park them in front of a screen and expect them to know anything. Because if anything the pandemic taught us is that kids who are parked in front of a screen for 6.5 hours a day don't really learn anything. And parents, which also is on your list, I see, parents, bless their little furry hearts, don't realize that when you're online with your class, that you're actually doing something with that class. When I was teaching during the pandemic, I had a little boy whose mother came in to him, fussed at him because he hadn't done the dishes. So he takes his computer, sets it on the side of the sink, and proceeds to do the dishes while I'm teaching. There's a massive disconnect between people understanding that education is not just teachers standing around the water cooler, and because they have had their personal experience with teaching is being taught, not the other way around. They don't know what teachers are really doing in a classroom. They just kind of assume that maybe we're reading to the kids all day long. No, that's not the way it works. We're mandated to try to find ways to help children be able to put more into working memory and to actually do these inferences and make these connections that they're not ready to make.
Yeah, and I've only seen, so I did all of my school in Canada, and it was probably not the typical experience anyway, because I went to like a private school, and then I went to public school, and I was in the gifted program the whole time. So we were given, like, we had a day to just go play with animals. Like, we didn't have standardized tests. I think the first test I did that was something like that was in high school. There was a math one and an English one, and they just told us what we got, like percentile wise, based on the city or something. But it didn't matter. It wasn't for anything. There's no SATs. There's no anything. So the only experience I have of this is through my son being in school. And he had tests he had to do on the computer from like grade 2 or 3, where it was like, oh, I have the ELA or whatever something test. We read something and then we have to pick the answer and we can't go back. Or one time I tried to go back and the computer crashed, right? Like, I was like, what's happening? I didn't do that stuff until so late. Has it been jogged backwards? Is that what happened?
Yes, it's been jogged backwards.
Oh, man.
You know, when I was growing up, I didn't hit a standardized test till maybe middle school. Junior
Mm-hmm.
high, late junior high. Um, and that's how they ranked us, is through that test. And to be perfectly honest, I wanted to read my book, so I would just bubble in something and then in a neat little pattern, and then I'd go read my book. So I didn't care,
Yeah.
And to me that wasn't for anything. Now we have made it such high stakes that we've had kids having breakdowns over this stuff, start crying, start throwing up, because the pressure of it is so much. And that's a lot for a kid. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot. We go all the way down to third grade is where we start the standardized testing. And, you have third graders practically having nervous breakdowns over this stuff.
And all I get as a parent is this weird report.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the same in every state, but it's like last year he had this year he has this, like compared to other people he's this, he's in this part of the percentile and something. And I'm like, okay, yay, like he's high in them all, but if he wasn't, that's okay too. Like, is there an action item?
Yeah.
Read more at home? Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah. And this is public school. This is public and maybe some private school. There is, what it sounds like to me, you probably went to a Montessori school where more the difference in teaching is a lot. It's a lot different teaching method. It's more exploratory. That's really the way I see education. And you know what? Finland, again, our gold standard for everything, said, you know what? We're getting better results if we bring back recess, if we bring back a lesser school day instead of more school day, no standardized testing. And you know what? We're getting kids who are coming out more well-adjusted, more able to handle learning about subjects that are interesting to them. They didn't shut off. They're not panicky or anxiety or having anxiety attacks, and they're not acting out in a classroom. And I think half of our behavior problems are because we're dealing with kids who are tuning out on the education process because their needs are not getting met.
I can see that. If I had to take a test every year from being however old and I was told I was bad at it every year, why the hell do I want to do this?
Well, it's not just that. We just gave the SBAC. Now we're going to give a MAP test, which is essentially the same thing. And we're going to grade these kids on this, and then we're going to grade the teachers on it, and then we're going to grade the school on it.
It reminds me of like when they used to say, this is going on your permanent record, right? That phrase.
Yeah.
That mattered so much to me. I thought there was a permanent record that when I was old, they'd be like, you came in late from recess in second grade. I thought it was a real thing. And now it feels like this is that. Like it's going on your permanent record. It affects the funding for the school. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it affects the funding for the school. The SBAC is really just a measure of how well the school's demographic is. So in other words, where is the school sitting? Okay, if the school is on the east side of town, your performance on the SBAC is going to be a whole lot less because that's where the concentration of English language learners is. Yeah, you might have an outlier, a school that performs well, but that's probably the school that's getting an awful lot of funding from Title I or other programs to have a lot of after-school programs, to have a lot of tutoring programs, to have a lot of CTT teachers coming in to help, support in the classrooms. They're getting all that support, so of course they're doing well. Or they're on the opposite side of town, where the demographic is, where all the people who can afford extra tutoring are, and they can bring in extra technology for their kids, and they're more involved in their students' learning. They've also probably homeschooled their kid at least one time. You've got a lot of that going on, and the SBAC just really is a measure of where you're positioned within the boundaries of Las Vegas or whatever, school.
Do they use it that way?
They sure do.
Or do they say like they're like, okay, this school is scoring low. Wouldn't that be like, oh, we need to give them something? Is that what it's for? Or is it like, you're scoring low?
Well, part of it is you're scoring low. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you more money to try to support you, if there's money available, which sometimes there's not.
Right.
And then we're going to rank you based on, whether or not you can improve your scores. Everybody at that school is kind of under the gun then to try to raise the scores of that school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a school one time that had a history of not ever really being able to do well on the SBAC. And part of the problem was that the school is surrounded by apartment complexes and all of those temporary housing places owned by the Siegel Group, the temporary hotels. And so, they made deals with the Siegel Group. If you can get the kids to come to school, maybe you can have a break on your weekly rent or whatever. But they had a high transiency rate. So you would start the school year out with a group of children and end the school year with a different group of children. And you haven't consistently taught those kids all year long, yet you're being graded on that. So they take attendance long about September, the mid-September. And those are the kids that you're, quote, being asked to teach for that entire period. And those are the kids that if they take the SBAC, you're going to be graded on. So your evaluation is stemming on those 5 children that are still left that haven't moved away from your classroom. Okay, right. 3 of those have IEPs and are not consistently able to do well on things like the SBAC and the MAP. And then you have other 2 children who are struggling with English language. And those are the 5 that are left in your classroom. And that's what your eval is going to be on. This is the reason why these teachers in these Title I schools that are really inner city never really make anything better than a 2.99 on their evaluation score. Now that's still ranked as effective, because anything from a 279 to 3 or 3.5, 310, whatever, is considered effective. But it's never going to be very high because you're teaching a high transiency school. You hope for that then, that when you have consistently failed for a couple, 2-3 years, that one, they haven't changed the metric on you, because this is what they're known for, is they'll come along and go, oh, everybody's doing great, let's change the metric, so they're not doing great anymore.
So if you're like adequate a bunch of times, what are you missing out on? Like there's a teacher somewhere getting like a high mark over and over. Do they get like raises?
No,
or what do they
get? Don't get anything. It doesn't matter.
So what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. This is why I don't care about evals. I look at it as a measure of whatever they're going to say this time that they think that you need to change in your classroom, and that may be accurate and it may not be. I mean,
yeah, you'll take it under advisement.
Yeah, it falls under. Okay, thanks a lot. The only time it really matters is maybe if you're going to transfer schools. They may or may not look at those scores. I don't know. I don't know of a principal that ever has looked at the score, because most of the time they're so happy that you want to transfer to their school because they don't have enough teachers.
Oh, it seems like so much ado about nothing.
It is. It is much ado about nothing. The SBAC doesn't matter. The MAP, they look at those scores when they send kids on to middle school. Okay, they look at those scores at about the winter time. They look at the MAP score, and that's how they decide where to place kids in classes. Other than that, it really doesn't have much. It doesn't have much to do with anything except for funding. So if you've consistently done bad, then they're going to call you a recovery school, or they come up with different names for them every once in a while, like every 5 years, but they're going to call you a Tier 1 school. You need all the Title I funding you can get. You're going to get all the goodies. You're going to get all the tutoring, whatever. The second you make your goal, which would be to be, a 3-star school or a 4-star school, they're going to pull all that funding away. And you're back at square one.
Isn't the point to keep it going? Wouldn't you continue to give them the thing that helped them succeed?
You would think so. But then they want to reallocate. You've done well for a year or two, so now they'll pull all the funding and send it somewhere else.
You couldn't walk, so we gave you a wheelchair. But now that you've gone from point A to point B, we need that wheelchair back. We got to give it to someone else.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Why? Does that go into the administration? Are they the people doing it?
Yeah.
I just picked this word. You might have better words.
Well, I would say it's part of the way that the Clark County School District is administered, because we are top heavy in admin. And there's a lot of people out there trying to justify what their position actually is, and whether or not they can continue to get their funding or not.
That sounds like most companies, most corporations in America.
Yeah.
There's a lot at the top, and then there's people down here doing some work.
Yeah. And so right now we're actually going through a period where we're having a contraction. We have more teachers right now than we have active positions open.
Really?
Yeah. And we may or may not have another transfer season. Right now, the only positions that are available are for special education administrators, special education facilitators, things like speech pathologists, stuff like that. One or two admin positions. I love my admin. I don't agree with some of the things that they're doing right now, though, and I realize that's not their fault. It's coming down from on high, because on high is doing some wild experimenting right now to try to find a good balance of stuff, and it makes you scratch your head going, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, that's the whole problem with any kind of structure.
Yeah.
Right? There's limited resources. We got to figure something out. And a result comes down that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a point where they were trying to get teachers so much that even if you had like any kind of bachelor's degree, they'd let you teach?
Yeah. What was happening is we didn't have enough substitutes. There wasn't enough subs going around, and so they were doing their darndest to try to attract people to just substitute classes. Now they have, what happened is a bunch of teachers retired, and then were able to be rehired about 90 days later as a substitute. So they not only got their Nevada PERS out of the deal, they got their retirement package out of it, then they got extra money from the district coming in as a sub, which is actually a pretty lucrative deal.
Yeah, that's smart.
But now our problem is that a lot of these people came in as long-term substitute positions. Now they're found teachers to put in those positions. So now you've got a lot of subs with no jobs. And then now we've also had a contraction in the district, which means we've lost about 40 to 50,000 kids. So that means we're at the position now where we could actually close schools. We're getting close to that. So they've slowed down on building schools or refurbishing schools. And now we are in a position where we've got a bunch of people who were surplused, but there's not enough jobs for the surplus. So they're holding out for hoping that there's going to be a lot of people retiring this summer. So those positions will hopefully fly between now and July, and those folks could apply for those jobs.
That's so interesting. What happened? Is it just fewer families, people having fewer kids? Do they have any guesses?
The economy in Las Vegas is kind of tanked.
Yeah,
it's kind of tanked in a big way. And so kids are being pulled out. They're either moving away, they were transient anyway, or their parents have just gotten totally frustrated with the chaos that is Clark County and are going to homeschool their children, which to me means you either put the effort in and get your homeschooling license, or you're just parking your kid in front of a computer that can be doing anything.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because I didn't even think of that. They could just be taking them out of the public school system.
They just take them out, and legally they're required to say they're educating them. In Nevada, I believe there is a loophole that says, if you say you're homeschooling your child, you must be homeschooling your child, period, the end. There's no offer of proof going there that the parent is actually teaching.
Well, and how many parents understand what teaching is? Like, it's not just like, I'm going to read you this passage and you're going to do a test. It's how can you be an expert in all of these different things? And how can you be passionate about all these different things and have the energy and time to teach your kid? That's why we made school in the first place, isn't it?
I honestly think, we made school in the first place for kids to get an education, but it has turned into a place where it's a substitute for childcare,
Yeah.
at least in public schools.
That's why the hours too, right? Like
Yeah.
longer school day to accommodate the work day.
We've changed it up where high school starts later. That way everybody starts later.
What's the reason behind that?
They did some research and discovered that teenagers need more sleep.
I agree. They think that this is going to help?
They think this is going to help. Well, no, it's
Okay.
not. The kids in Las Vegas are just going to stay up later. I mean,
Sure. You could just keep making it later. Eventually it'll be at night. That's fine, I guess.
yeah. Our new superintendent has, seen the research, and yes, I agree with the research. I agree that kids need more sleep.
And does the day end earlier?
No, the day's going to end later. It's start earlier and end later.
They could sleep in a tiny bit.
Yeah, they could sleep in a tiny bit. They're just going to go to, instead of 3:30, they're going to go to 4 o'clock. It's negligible. It's not, I don't think that it's really going to do much, because you still have early bird classes. You still have kids that are going to be there at 6 a.m. because they have to do something at 6 a.m. Maybe they're early bird because they have a job that they have to go to at 1 o'clock. When I was in high school, we didn't start till about 9:30 either, and that was fine. I mean, I would go to school. I would be at school at 8 o'clock in the morning for other things because I was involved with drama and stuff like that.
Yeah. It seems like they're worrying about, penny wise, pound foolish.
Yeah, well, it's all in the minutia.
Yeah, and then we won't worry about the standardized test.
Yeah, we won't worry about the things that actually matter. We're going to worry about the minutia of stuff.
Yeah, and maybe that's all you can change, and that sucks.
Yeah, I think that is the problem. I think that is all the things that they can change, is just the little things. Let's make it a little bit more comfortable. Let's bring in the cushy chairs when we have to make sure everybody's standardized testing. Let's give schools money so that they can buy those privacy dividers. Let's buy them all headphones so they can sit there. Let's make it cushy and nice and comfy. But we're not going to solve the problem.
Exactly.
I always thought about it as, we're on the Titanic. It's sinking. Everybody runs to that side of the boat, and now we're on the side that's not sinking, and we're pretending it's not sinking, but when our side starts to go down, we run to the other side and still pretend it's not sinking.
Mm-hmm. That's the Titanic, yeah. And someone's playing the song.
Yeah, and there's somebody playing that violin, let me tell you.
Yep, every time. So I don't know what to put administration. They're fine, but they're not fine. Maybe
they're not really fine. Let's put change it.
Change it is a good place. And parents, tricky one.
Oh, dear God, don't even get me started. Now, I have had some really wonderful parents over the years.
Of course.
I've been teaching for 20 years. I've had some great people. A lot of my interactions with parents are negative.
And is it them coming to you? Like, how did those even come about?
It's them coming to me and yelling about something that they think is important, and I'll sit there and listen to it, but in the end, it's really not. And I had a parent who was upset that I would give a test, but I wouldn't grade it immediately. I might have a weekend or something that I was doing, and she would get upset that I had not posted the grade immediately. And she got mad, went to my admin every 2 weeks, because I am required every 2 weeks to post at least 2 formative assessments, and every 3 weeks 1 summative assessment. Well, the curriculum does not lend itself to that structure, so sometimes I would not even have a test to give. So here I am, having to search around for something to accommodate this.
That's wild. So let's say that there's a spectrum of parents, and there's the perfect one, even though that probably doesn't exist, and there's the most horrible one. What are the characteristics of them? Like, is it helicopter people who are the hardest to deal with?
Sometimes it's helicopter people. The ones that are really hardest to deal with are the ones that just don't care.
Yeah. But you wouldn't even see them, right?
Yeah, you never see them. You can't get a hold of them.
Yeah.
They block your number. They see the 799 prefix that's part of all the school numbers here, and they block the number.
No.
I had a little boy, and we were talking about his grades, and I said, I'm trying to get a hold of your mom so we could come into a conference. He says, my mom has to work. She's not going to come.
Oh.
And I said, oh, okay. And so I called the mom, and she said, look, I have to work. I cannot possibly do this. And I said, look, this has been on the docket since the very beginning of the school year, and you've been notified about it multiple times, and that you had plenty of opportunity to talk to your boss and make sure that this was clear. She said, I can't do things like that. Besides that, my child can do whatever he wants. I don't care.
What? What is this? Okay, so what we need to do is get every adult into therapy so that you guys don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. I felt so bad for this kid. I looked at him. He said, my mom doesn't care. I said, yes, but I do. I care. I care about you. I care about your grades. I care about your learning. I care that you come to class every day.
Well, and it's so hard for a kid to say like, oh, she's working, she can't come. Because the subtext of that is she won't put this first. And maybe she literally can't, but that would be a different conversation you would have with her. When you call, she would be like, oh my God, I want so much to support him, but something happened with my job, whatever. Like, it would be a different conversation.
Yeah, that would be a completely different conversation. Yeah. And I would be a whole lot more understanding.
People, you catch more flies with honey. I don't know how to tell you. You know when you call for like a medical bill and you have to try to sort through all that? I say, we're together on this. I'm upset about this bill and you didn't send me this bill. You can transfer me to someone who can help. I don't need to yell at you at all. I've been on both sides, right? Be nice.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. And I realize that I come off angry when I talk about stuff like this. It's just I have a passion for teaching. I have a passion for helping kids, and I don't have children of my own. So it really upsets me when parents blow off their responsibility.
Oh, and it breaks your heart. That's part of the reason I couldn't be a teacher.
Yes, and teaching in and of itself is a traumatic profession. People don't realize the level of stuff you have to deal with because there's a lot of fast-paced decisions being made, on-the-fly decisions being made, anywhere from let's change my lesson plan because they're not responding to whatever it is I decided to do, or there needs to be some other kind of rescue put in place, or I need to get a hold of this parent because we got to talk about the behaviors in the room are not working, or there's a myriad of things that teachers do on a daily basis that would surprise the heck out of everybody, I think, if they ever really watched what teaching is and what teachers do.
So many inputs. How can I be the perfect parent for all the teachers of my son? Here's what I try to do. Tell me if I'm doing it. I don't bother them. When I have a question, I ask it on whatever, Remind or Dojo or whichever one they're using.
Yeah.
And if they don't answer me for a week, I don't care. I might ask it again in another week, right? There's nothing that important usually. I do one parent-teacher conference. They do like on the phone or something. And I just tell them, thank you for teaching my son. He likes your class. And that's kind of all I do. What else should I be doing?
You know what? That's actually, the perfect response. And I'm glad that somebody kind of understands that there's a lot going on and teachers may or may not respond to you immediately. Going back to that parent who doesn't understand that I have 3 sections of science students to teach. I am going to be grading all of those tests together, but your son is, way down on the list simply because his last name is at the bottom of the alphabet. That's actually, a relief to hear that some parents, and you in particular, understand the amount of stuff that teachers are doing.
It's crazy. And I'm just asking, like, do you want me to send something for the potluck? I don't have to. It's all good.
As to being the perfect parent, you're doing fine. I might go in person to those meetings. If you're asked to go to a parent-teacher meeting, I would go in person.
Oh, do they like that? I thought that would be annoying. We used to.
Yes, I would go. I would go meet the teacher. I would
We
say I
definitely
want to
meet them
know.
at the beginning of the year. They have this like
Yeah,
meet that, and we go then.
yeah, yeah. It's more comforting to the teacher if
Okay.
you come in and you make a presence, because then they realize that you're actually serious about your kid's education. You're
Yeah.
not trying to bully them into getting your kid a better grade. You're not trying to obstruct with something else. You're
Yeah.
not trying to allow your kid's not manipulating you so you think that something else is going on. Always go in and talk to the teacher first. Oh my
Yeah.
God. If I could just impress that onto parents, that's what I would say is talk to the teacher first, because guess what? Your kid lies.
Or they've had a totally different experience of the situation.
Yeah, or they have read, or the context of the experience of whatever went on was what was happening.
Yep.
Go clear the air with the teacher first. Don't run to admin. Don't run to the area supervisor. Don't throw a crazy fit. Don't punch out a bus driver, for the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, you draw more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
This episode is brought to you by Subtitles. I can't watch anything without them. When there is noise anywhere or people talking, my ears need my eyes to be able to figure out what's happening. One of the best things I've done for my experience in watching television is turning on subtitles. Thank you to whoever suggested it to me when my son was little and making a lot of noise, and I couldn't hear anything all of a sudden. And how come those action scenes are so loud? I'm still supposed to be able to tell what the person is whispering? No. And I love when it's like jaunty music, or it shows the name of whoever's talking before they've come on screen and I get to know. Amazing. Subtitles are an example of when accessibility for people who have auditory processing issues makes everyone's lives better. Who knew? We should make everything as accessible as possible. Turn on subtitles. I tried to put them on these videos and it was super hard. Eventually I'll get there. Netflix, streaming services, try it out. You won't have to rewind as much, and you'll actually understand the dialogue. Shout out to sound mixers out there, but bigger shout out to subtitles. And now back to the episode. That's cool.
Most teachers are really good about that because they want parent involvement, but they don't want parent involvement that involves being in your face, negative, demanding. I also need to impress upon parents that the grades are not that big of a deal. I used to teach at a school where we didn't give grades. It was just on a rubric scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 meant they were emerging, 2 meant they were developing, 3 meant they were on grade level, and 4 meant that they were exceptional.
Emerging makes me think of the alien coming out of someone's chest.
Yeah, it does, but it does. But and sometimes it is exactly like that, because you can stay emerging for a long time.
Yeah.
Some of these kids may not leave emerging for about 2 or 3 years. But you know what? That's fine, because again, if we're talking about growth, this is where it gets sticky. Some people think growth means good grades. And other people understand that growth is whatever the child is capable of doing.
Yeah.
And we look at kids with IEPs and we look at, did they actually write a sentence this week that made sense? That's growth for them. Versus the child who can already read, who can already figure out things by context clues, who is really good at word morphology, and who is really clicking along and is what I call a high flyer. Their growth is going to look a lot different than the child with the IEP.
Yeah.
So you have this gamut between all of them. Putting a grade on that is just almost impossible.
Yeah.
Because what is an A for Sally with the IEP versus Trudy, who's up there, practically reading at a 7th grade level now?
Yeah. And what, you want to give Sally an F just because of the comparison? Like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating, because you have to give her an F or a W.
Right.
Because she's not on grade level. Well,
That's
grade
crazy.
level, even our concept of grade level has changed.
Yeah.
Beforehand, fourth grade used to mean fourth grade. Now it's, if you're looking at the fourth grade curriculum, it's cruising on what you and I would have done in sixth grade.
Oh,
So
man.
2 years difference now.
Yeah.
And again, we go back to that working memory issue. We're expecting kids to hold all this stuff in working memory. And some of these kids, bless their little furry hearts, they're working at their level. They're not working at what we call grade level.
Yeah.
But we're still trying to measure growth. So we're doing two things that seem disingenuous. We're measuring growth on one thing, but we're having to give a grade on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And, I believe it was Einstein who says if you're trying to teach a fish to climb a tree, that fish is going to go all of its life with thinking it's a failure.
Yeah. I love that quote.
I think we've got a lot of fish that we're trying to teach how to climb trees.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening that the way education is going in this country is it's leaning. Oh God, don't even get me started on the president's wife and her speech about AI technology and how robots are going to take over. I'm like, no. Oh no. You've been watching too many science fiction movies, lady.
I mean, I've seen tons of science fiction movies where AI takes over and destroys everything.
Yeah, me too. No, I was thinking of in The Mandalorian, little Grogu gets planted in a classroom, and this is that cute scene where he steals the blue macaroon. Okay, but there's a C-3PO model teaching the class, and she has a female voice, and she's teaching something, and I'm sitting here thinking, great, she's a great imparter of content. But when that kid has a meltdown in the middle of class because Grogu snitched one of his cookies, what is that 3PO unit going to do?
Nothing.
Can they do anything?
I don't know.
Nothing. I don't know either, but this is the romantic idea that people have about AI teaching and robots teaching class, that it's going to look something like that. And I disagree, because if you go into this thinking that you're just going to teach content and that's all you want to do is impart content, then you've lost the plot about teaching, because that's not what you're doing.
Yes.
You're mommy, you're a psychotherapist, you're an organizer, you're a contributor, you're a snotty nose wiper, you're almost everything but a content teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't see a robot doing that. So, yeah, good luck with that idea. I'd like to have my own isekai moment where I come back after death and see exactly what they have done with the place in, 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to see that if they've actually managed to make that work, because I'll be willing to bet they didn't, then we still have
a feeling it'll be a
teachers.
spectacular failure.
Yeah. I don't think they understand teaching.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? So parents, some of them are doing okay, and some of them need a little
help.
Something, a little help.
Yeah, well, they need to understand what teaching really is, because their experience with teaching was as a student. And maybe they didn't get along with their teachers. Maybe they found subjects hard. Maybe they found stuff difficult. Maybe they had a bad time. They're judging the teaching profession by their experience with the teaching profession, not as a profession unto itself.
Yeah. Or they're taking their frustration at their job out on you.
Yeah, because, we're easy targets. We're not going to be able to move anywhere.
Yeah. It could be that. I mean, classrooms, you have to have them, I guess. But are they good enough?
You keep them. Well, depends if you mean by physicality, or do you mean the physical classroom or the way class is set up? I guess I'm asking.
You can pick.
Okay. I like my classroom right now. However, my classroom is in a very old building. Mm-hmm. I have easy access to the girls' bathroom, but sometimes it floods and you can't use it. I'm in a classroom where there are no windows. The air conditioning and the heating does not always work properly. I also sit I have a door to the outside, and it whistles when the wind is bad. That also means there's an air leak, so when it's really cold in the wintertime, the heat does not necessarily come into my room very easily, and sometimes it just blows cold air. This building is scheduled for demolition in 2028, so we're supposed to have a new building in 2029. I like it because it's a huge classroom. And they gave me the huge classroom last year because I had 40 students.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we only had 2 sections of 5th graders, so I had 40 and my colleague teacher had 40. And he had to cram his into a smaller room. That was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That was a lot of 5th graders. That was a lot of 5th graders and all of the drama that comes with being in 5th grade and learning your body, especially if you're a girl and things like that. I mean, it had its moments of severe frustration. This year I have half because we split the grade level into 3.
Nice.
We also departmentalized, so I teach science. I do have a homeroom class. I have some great kids, but my problem is getting the parents to bring their children to school.
Yeah.
I have 20 students, but on any given day, I have somewhere between 17 and 15 actually show up.
And that's so hard. Catch them up, figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I think we'll put attendance needs to change a little bit.
Yes, attendance definitely needs to change. You need to bring your kiddos to school. They're not, it's not even a thing of, they're not going to be successful, because I've had parents tell me, I don't want my kid to go to college. I don't want my kid to be successful. I want my kid to take over my landscaping business when he's old enough. I've had that conversation with parents.
I mean, give him options. He can take over your landscaping business after he graduated high school, right? That's fine.
Yeah. So there's no reason to keep him home now.
This one's lesson plans and the curriculum. I don't know if those are clear.
Curriculum. You have a misspelling of the word curriculum.
Oh, how do you spell it?
C-U.
Ta-da! Oh, I still did it wrong. Where's the U? There it is.
There you go.
Curriculum. A teacher over here.
Well, okay, curriculum. Let's talk about the reading curriculum and how over the top it can be sometimes. We have a brand new series, to at least to us, which is called Into Reading, and it's made by Harcourt Brace, and then it's somebody else. It was another textbook company that went in with Harcourt. So it's called Into Reading. We have to do 2 things. We have to do a scripted curriculum called 95 Core Phonics, which I was initially a little skeptical of, because like most scripted programs, there's very little leeway. You have to say exactly what's on the script. You have to go through the script and figure out when you have to actually change the slide. And most people, when you're being evaluated, they will come in and say, you're not holding that in your right hand, you're not holding that in your left hand, so there's always this little bit of drama over how the presentation of the material should go. I'm of the opinion that if you're getting it across to the kids, then it doesn't really matter if you're holding that book in your arms or not, or if you have it braced on the top of a lectern. Okay? Any way you're comfortable in delivering the material, you should be able to be comfortable delivering the material, because it is scripted. You don't have a choice in what you can say. But I will say the 95 Core Phonics program is very good at teaching phonics, and that's what kids need is phonics. There was a movement when I started teaching that kind of drifted away from teaching phonics and was trying to teach it as a whole language, and was trying to teach words by context. But the research actually shows that kids do not know how to divine what a word is just by its context. They would be able to pronounce it. They'll work out how it's pronounced. But as far as the word meaning itself or the word morphology, no, context clues don't work. So,
are sight words part of that?
Yes, sight words are actually part of this.
Okay.
At the lower grades, not
part of the phonics, not part of the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, part of phonics. So that's part of it. You're learning sight words. You're learning how to break a word down to, so it's like we're talking about word morphology, so we're talking about the sounds the words make, like
Yeah.
a, p, ul. Okay, apple.
Right.
Okay, and you notice there's the in there, but when you spell the word, it's not APAHL.
Right.
That's not apple. So you have to work out, and sometimes the teacher's pronunciation and her accent, and I do have an accent, so I have to watch how I actually pronounce words. But
Right.
anyway, but that's a teacher variance. But anyway, so the kid is hearing pull, so that's the way they're going to spell it, is the way they hear it. Well, now we have to teach them that the English language doesn't work like that.
No.
So now you have a doubled consonant, APP. There's no
Nope.
there's LE. So it's A-P-L-E. Aptly. That's what
Appley.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Aptly is what it looks like. Okay, now we have to get it across to the kids that an apple is what a good old standard red apple, that's what we're talking about. And now we're having to talk about the variance in the spelling. So now we're explaining that sound that they're hearing is actually a doubled consonant and the silent E.
Right.
So
Like, oh, so that's easy.
Yeah, so phonics teaching is challenging, but English is
Yes,
challenging.
it is.
English is a very difficult language to actually learn because there's so many sounds that we make, like schwa. There's so many sounds that we make in the language that are not present in the spelling of the word.
Yeah.
So, silent E's, things like that, that's a good one. Learning these spelling rules and how the sound spelling actually is somewhat effective when you're younger, but now you need to learn how to translate the sound to the actual spelling of the word. So that's where this 95 Core Phonics program is pretty good. Now, my PhD was on scripted curriculum, and I had people I interviewed and talked to had kind of a mixed reaction about scripted curriculum. Some of them hated it because it gave them no autonomy in their teaching.
Yeah.
And that is one of the drawbacks, is that you have to say it the way the research program, allegedly research program, says that you have to say it, and you're done. But there's also the thing, the teacher said, well, you know what, if it goes wrong, it's not my fault.
Right.
I did what they told me to do. I read it right out of the script, and if the kids didn't get it, oh well.
Right.
And so, there was that defense of, I did my part, but if the kids didn't get it,
There's no slide for the next part. What am I supposed to do?
So
That's interesting.
that's a good curriculum. The HMH Into Reading has its moments where I honestly think that they have put too many Lexile levels in
In
it.
one.
In one.
Yeah.
And I know there's curriculum out there. I reviewed a curriculum in the research that was neither culturally appropriate or grade level appropriate. They were expecting these children to read 2 grade levels above. No wonder they were having trouble.
Yeah. And they're already jogged down the grade levels. Oh my goodness. It all seems like focusing on something. Like, if the problem is not all teachers teach the same, if that's a problem, right? Not all teachers teach the same. So we'll make sure they all say the same thing. And that loses something else, right? It's all push and pull.
It's all a push and pull. It's very much so.
Yeah. So I would say that has to change too. Parts of it are good.
Parts of it are good. We're not trashing the curriculum.
I'm not throwing it out.
But we need to have the flexibility to be able to teach things in context. Because here's the thing. They get into high school. They've never been asked to read a whole novel. So here they are handed Lord of the Flies, and they don't have the stamina to read it.
Yeah.
They haven't read anything longer than a few pages because that's what the textbook has.
And that's a muscle.
When they actually have the book in their hands, they're not able to handle reading
Oh my
something that
gosh.
long.
It's
And
the
this has
long
been
game. It's not right now.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
whole thing.
Well, it's the long game. And this is one of the things that they're complaining about in college right now is that they're getting a bunch of kids who don't know how to handle reading long passages.
Lesson plans, I have a feeling, is the same, right? It needs to.
Sometimes I don't really even write my lesson plans. I copy, cut, and paste from either where the curriculum has the stuff or somebody else has done it for me and sold it on Teachers Pay Teachers, or there's myriads of ways to get around having to actually write lesson plans.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel for every single lesson.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. The thing is the big picture, as it always is with humanity, right? There's a big picture we could be working toward, but we have all these little things in our way. The big picture is the kids loving learning.
Yeah, and there's all this issues with the minutia.
Yeah.
And because when you get right down to it, when you micromanage something, the only thing that you can manage is the minutia.
Yeah.
Because everything else you don't have control over.
Oh, isn't that terrifying?
And that's the big battle, especially in education, is you really don't have control over what the kids learn, because what you place in front of them may not be with the lesson that they learn. Period.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point.
I mean, they may be doing something completely indifferent or hearing something completely different come out of your mouth.
Yeah. Imagining some other topic that they're thinking about.
Or they were like me when I was growing up, having that form of ADHD that has you, staring out the window and not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
You were living in your own dream world. Well, some of these kids live in their own dream world, and I get that. They'll wake up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But teaching them to hate learning in the way that we're doing, we're teaching people to hate it. We're teaching people to resent people with higher level degrees.
Right.
We're creating our own problem.
Oh, I can't wait for someone to fix it.
No, they're not going to.
No, not yet. Maybe, what was it, Finland? They're going to fix it, right?
Well, they already have.
Perfect. Eventually we'll follow them.
They're all in agreement about what they want. See, that's also the part of the problem.
Yeah, the big picture.
Is our country has multiple ideas about what the curriculum should be and who should teach what. And if you're living in the South right now, then you need to be teaching the Bible. Here, we're teaching Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So there's a big, huge difference in what the value education actually has.
Yeah.
Now, in Finland, they all decided to agree as a country that they valued education and they were going to treat education as a big deal. And they were going to make sure that the way they conducted education was in the best possible environment for the way their students know to learn. Okay? Here, we're trying to force it.
Yeah.
We're not allowing the organic structure that, you might have in Montessori school still. We're not allowing for that type of progressive learning. We're just trying to ram as much content down their throats as we possibly can and hope that they'll graduate high school.
Oh, man. I'm going to use this as a transition because I think it's a perfect juxtaposition. There's that word. So that was the teaching part. This is the plug end part. So here's the part I say. We wind down on words about stuff with a bit of introspection. There's a lot of things that aren't working, but what has been working for you lately?
What's been working for me lately? I love teaching science. I love teaching social studies. I get into it. I am so into my content. The problem is trying at the end of the year is trying to get them into their content. And if I can spark interest in one or two kids that have entered the doldrums of the year, then I'm doing really good. And I had a little girl 2 or 3 days ago say, I like this, Mrs. Living. This is interesting. This is really interesting. And I was talking, I'm off topic, totally off topic. I'm talking about the War of the Roses. I'm trying to give the context that leads into how our country was formed and what life was like for Europeans and why they would decide that everybody else was primitive as opposed to them, and why they thought slavery was okay.
Right.
Because understanding that, then you understand why slavery became a big deal in this country and why it became an economic issue in the Civil War. So understanding the context of this, because again, they don't understand that there was a really brutal system in Europe that was set up in a way that humanity was kind of set to fail. If you didn't believe a certain way, if you didn't do a certain thing, then they had no room for you. This is why we had people come to this country, is because they were tired of being picked on. But they still carried some of that business with them, that they were superior to others. And with the disease issue and with their attitude, this is how people got wiped out here, and it was easy for them to take over, and it was easy for them to set up their own system of how they understood the world.
Yeah, they thought, why wouldn't we do this?
Why wouldn't we? This is not a bad thing. This is an accepted practice. Now, when we look at it from a modern lens, it's terrible. Oh my God. But back then, it was, that lens said, yeah, that's fine.
And that's important context to look at things now. What are we looking at now, thinking it might be fine, when maybe it's not fine?
When it's not fine, And so, again, context is everything. Yes, I'm deviating from the content, and I've been told not to deviate from the content. But how are you going to understand the content if you just get what they put?
And if it's just the bullet points, she might not say, this is so interesting. Which is the light of the day, right?
Yes, exactly. And they got to watch horrible histories, which they showed them about King Henry VIII, the song.
Oh, yeah.
About King Henry VIII, which is one of my favorite ones. And they were really surprised. And, that, it sticks with them when you do content like that.
Fun.
Just reciting names and dates and stuff like that, no. But again, would they tell me, oh, wow, I found this interesting. Oh, wow, this is actually kind of cool. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I'm talking about the Republic of Pirates, for heaven's sake, and how they were a model for democracy. That's the things that spark their interest. Next week sometime I'm going to put on my pirate garb and go to class dressed as a pirate to try to address that period of time, because we're going to be talking about Jamestown and York and how pirates actually shut down the port of Charleston for a while. And it's teaching by context.
Yeah, they might remember that.
Yeah, they might remember something about it later on and go, oh yeah, I remember Mrs. Livingston came dressed as a pirate that day, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
And she talked to us about what life was like in Jamestown. Make it interesting. I just don't show film clips of people going, yes, and back then they did that.
Bullet points.
That's not it. That's not interesting. That bores them to death. They're falling asleep on the desks. Keep them awake. Keep them bouncing around a little bit. Yeah. Keep them thinking about what we're talking about. Why did people come to this country in the first place? Economic reasons. Geographic reasons. Gold and glory reasons.
Yeah. So there's gold in them Thar Hills.
Yeah, it wasn't just because they wanted to, come over here and have slaves. And when they, when I have them paying attention, when they're actually following me and not drawing or something on the thing, then I know they're paying attention, that they're interested in the subject. So
that's the best part.
That's a huge win. And I love it when the light bulb goes on and they go, oh, I got that now. I understand.
And that comes from loving learning also. Oh, I figured a thing out. Oh, I had an idea. Yes.
Yeah. And, one or two of them do love to learn. They like stuff. So you play to those kids that they're there because they're interested, and you see the interest in their face.
Oh, yes. I was one of those, but I also had a bunch of great teachers, and I don't think they had all these constraints. So now it's time for plugs. If people want to learn more about teaching, what should they do? Where should they go?
I think they should go to their local school board meetings. I think they should start attending school board meetings and learning more about how schools function, how the politics of schools function.
And get a little information about that before they jump in?
Yeah, and I also think that they should spend time talking to their child's teacher, and I mean not just about their kid and that, but talking and trying to make a connection with their child's teacher, build a relationship, because when you build a relationship with somebody, there's a lot more coming there. It's easier to explain to a parent that you have a vibe with what's going on with their child than it is to explain to a parent who's all in a twist because their kid has told them something but it's out of context.
It kind of goes to building community, right? Like if I'm in community with the
Yeah.
teachers, then we're all in the best interest of the kid. If I see myself as whatever and they're something else, now we're fighting. No, we should all be on the
Yeah.
same team
Yeah.
until proven otherwise.
Yeah, you should all be on the same team. Now, there's bad teachers out there. I don't doubt that at all. But don't blame the basket of apples just because there's one bad apple in the basket. And if you've had a bad apple teacher, for the love of heaven, don't tar and feather all of us because I'm not that teacher that you had. Your experience with teachers is maybe 20 years old.
Yep.
And times have changed and teachers have changed. The whole teaching profession has rolled over in 20 years. There's a whole different thing going on here. And the way we teach stuff is even different. So before you flip out, check in with your teacher.
Take a look.
Just check in. And not yelling and screaming, but actually trying to make a connection with that teacher. Now, if you have difficulty doing that, you may just have an introverted teacher.
Sure.
I mean, I'm an introverted teacher. I prefer to keep parents at an arm's length. But that's because I am an introvert and talking to people for, a long time can be draining on me. Parent-teacher conference day is just nightmarish for me.
Yeah.
So, if you come in at 7 o'clock and you're all loaded for bear, and I've had all day to have to be talking to people and putting on my best face, by the time you talk to me, I'm going to be going at you. That you're getting the slack face. Try again. If something's going on, try again. Try to keep making a connection with the teachers. Because we're human beings too. We screw up. We have been known to make mistakes. Good Lord, we're not God. And we're also not here to make a judgment on your child. And I think that's part of the problem is people think we're judging your kid. No, we're not judging you. We're not judging your kid. That's not my job. My job is trying to hold it together of a classroom through 20 diverse, interested, bright, crazy fifth graders. That's my job. And I'm here also to try to hold it together so that they learn something. And maybe find their own voice. We're doing this Leader in Me thing in our school. And we're doing a section about finding your voice. And I said, this is really what teachers do. We're not here to just regurgitate content at you. We're also here to help you find the things that you're interested in. And I know a lot of you are saying video games right now, that's what you're interested in. But there are a lot of things that you'll learn just even playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, there is a lot of things that you might find yourself interested in. This is the real job of a teacher, is to help students find their voices, help them find the things that light their fire, that help their passion grow, have them looking at things from a different lens instead of, oh my God, that's boring, to, oh, I didn't know that. That's actually interesting. So this is the real job that a teacher does, is that they help others find their voice. And ironically, I didn't start out trying to help people find their voice. I was the one that was regurgitating content. But over the years, I have learned that my real job has nothing to do with actual content. My real job has to do with helping kids learn what it is to be a human and learn what it is to have an interest in living.
Yeah.
I'm really here to teach you how to learn. I'm not
Yeah.
here to, to give, spit content at you. I'm here to help you learn how to learn and to learn independently, because a lot of kids will go on YouTube and learn how to do the math from YouTube because that fits their learning style.
I think one of my schools had that motto, help me to help myself. Now the plug for you. If someone wants more Lisa, where should they go?
You can find me on Substack under Stardust Imaginarium.
Yeah.
I have a WordPress account under Serious Moonlight. I need to get all the names the same. I really do. I am on Instagram. The Archaeology Department is on Instagram.
Ooh.
Archaeology Department has its own YouTube channel. Gold Otaku, on the other hand, is the thing that Bill and I are doing, where we go around to all the Japanese restaurants in Las Vegas and show you what the food looks like and what the atmosphere looks like and what we thought.
Oh my gosh. You have a lot going on.
Oh, I'm also on LinkedIn, by the way.
Oh yeah, we could put LinkedIn too. We end every episode with an exceptional outro that I haven't thought of yet. Until then, we're stealing them. As Emeril Lagasse always says, bam! Thanks, Lisa!
Well, thank you, Amy. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.